Hi, class. So last time we left off talking about the economic value of the customer. And so part of that is also utility. And that's what kind of savings can you create for me? And so there are different aspects like saving in price, which is a Walmart, uh, saving money while using it. I want energy efficient appliances. Uh, in Arizona, air conditioning is actually really important. Or maybe in terms of maintenance, that if I don't need an oil change um, for 10,000 miles instead of 3,000, that saves me money. And there's also people who need to dispose of things. Like if you have tons of information you want to shred, or you have chemical waste or things like that. So those are examples. In terms of savings for a business, what they're interested in is cost of ownership. And here's an example, actually a real example of a company I worked for. And these are the factors that they think about, like installation costs, personnel, how many people do I need to actually run this thing. This is what they figure out for automation. And that's that, okay, the investment of automation, how much is it going to save me in labor over time? And a lot depends on how much you pay people. But what it comes down to is for this particular process, this company is showing that they can save 40% with their new tool. In terms of actually looking at economic value, a lot of people don't do it. But if you actually sit down and go through it, if you compare a Prius to a Civic, actually the Prius really isn't worth it. In order to break even, you need to drive 50,000 miles a year to have the comparable cost to a Civic. Now, of course, you might want it for other reasons, like you like the electrical car driving experience. I could totally understand that. The thing about electric cars is, going 0 to 60, you can do it in like 2 or 3 seconds because it doesn't have the startup time that a normal combustion engine has. And people also pay for other reasons, like they want to be more green, they care about the end of the planet. So in terms of B2B, here are some examples of the company economics, essentially how much it costs you to acquire a new customer. One thing you see is in telecom right now, it costs them $315 to acquire a cell phone customer. That's how bloody and expensive it is out there right now. Now, in terms of getting them to trial, there are different kinds of customers. The easy ones are self-motivated and they have a burning need, so they just need a solution. Those are the no-brainers. In the middle are the inbound customers. And what I mean by inbound are these are the people who are looking for a solution that they come to you. However, they have an interest. For example, I'm reading a blog about something. I click on the link in the blog and that link takes me to you. I've expressed I have interest in the topic. This is why search engines, and we'll see that search engine actually has the highest cost per person. But the reason why people still like search engines is with all these people and data and everything, the one thing you have is a lot of noise. And you waste a lot of money and a lot of time on noise. So if you can find people who are, if you're doing a search, let's face it, odds are you're going to do something. And so that's why search engine marketing is so powerful. You can try, how do I induce people to act? And this is why entrepreneurs focus on pain. And that's that it's easier to sell somebody a tire when it's flat than it is to try to sell somebody a new suit. And so you need to figure out what a person's triggers are, and this is why one way to try to induce it today is we live in the age of content and influencer marketing. Content, I give you something free to get something back. For example, you want an article. You really like this article. What do they ask for? Your name and your email address. Guess what? They're building up a database of people who are interested. An influencer, because there are so many options, there are so many companies, you don't know which ones are good and you don't know which ones are bad. So what do? You look at reviews, you ask people. Uh, if you see, like if I'm looking at computer security and I find out Bill Gates is using a certain company, then all of a sudden it's like, well, geez, if Bill Gates is using it, it must be good. And that's the effect of influencers. The thing is, we make decisions based on risk reward. The thing about risk is the perceived loss. Um, and so now we're getting back into behavioral economics again with framing and everything else. Economic is pretty much straightforward. Functional benefits can actually be quantified, that you can figure out how much people are willing to pay for a certain attribute, and psychological is the tough one. So how do I learn about customers? Well, I take surveys. I talk to people who are thought leaders in the area. And the big thing is to figure out what their elasticity is, meaning how much do price changes affect how many people are actually going to buy. The thing is, we live in the age of computing, and with big data, you can figure things out in real time. And what it comes down to is you start to derive probabilities. So in terms of the adoption overview, there are three things that are driving it. Either people are driven by values, which are functional, psychological, and so on. There's the network effect, which is the P's and Q's, and then there's mandatory. And mandatory is there's some context, which is driving people to do something. There are bad customers. There are customers that cost you too much money. And so the customer is not always right. There's some customers you just have to abandon. And there are certain customers that you just don't chase after. By the same token, there are good customers, people who are going to continually buy and repeat, and that's what you want to invest in. But the thing is, your customer may not be static. He might change over time. And that takes us into the last part of our lecture.